Luke 10, verses 25 to 37. One day, an expert in religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question: Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus replied, What does the law of Moses say? How do you read it? The man answered, You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Right, Jesus told him. Do this and you will live. The man wanted to justify his actions, so he asked Jesus, And who is my neighbor? Jesus replied with a story. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of clothes and beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along. But when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side. Then a despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. He then put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn, where he took care of him. The next day he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him to take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you the next time I'm here. Now, which of these three would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by bandits? Jesus asked. The man replied, The one who showed him mercy. Then Jesus said, Yes, now go and do the same. Luke 10, 25 to 37. A lot to talk about there. It's the parable of the Good Samaritan if you're not familiar with it. What I wanted to focus on today, because there's so much in today's blog, is the fact that Jesus said the law expert got something right. So when Jesus asked, what does the Mosaic law state, he quoted Deuteronomy 6:5 and Leviticus 19:18. And Jesus said, Yep, you got it. Now, again, that was the love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. Now, the heart was the core of one's being. It holds our emotions, our desires, and our will. And loving God with our heart shows devotion to Him. The soul is the life force or essence of who we are. So, loving God with all of all of our soul shows commitment to Him. Our strength shows our physical capabilities and our resources. So, loving God with all of our strength shows our servitude towards Him. And our mind describes our intellect and understanding. So, loving God with all our mind shows, obviously, our mindset and our rationale towards Him. So, being devoted, committed, serving, and thoughtful of God leads us to eternal life. This and loving our neighbors as ourselves. This describes the importance of selfless love and compassion towards others, which is the same love that God shows us. So that part we got right, or he got right. So, but I thought it was important to break down what it meant to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, because how we think of it isn't exactly the same as how the Greek and Jewish writers originally thought of it. So I wanted to break that down, but this blog is filled with a lot of information. It's probably, I think, one of the longest blogs I've wrote all year. But breaking down the parable of the Good Samaritan, we talked a little bit too about who the priest was, who the Levite was, who the Samaritan was, what all that meant. And then we transitioned to talk about xenophobia, which is our social justice concept for this week. The fear, hatred, or prejudice against strangers, foreigners, or people perceived as different from one's own community and culture. So we talk about all that. I went down a lot of routes of what it is, what this can look like, how this happened, who's targeted, what happens to those who are targeted, and then the obvious, how can we work to combat it and help victims of xenophobia? And then I highlight the faith and racial justice um, nonprofit by Just Faith Ministries that is rooted in addressing systemic racism in churches and communities through prayer, spiritual practice, and social action. So, but there is a lot of information to go through here. So, I encourage you, please take some time to look this over. Xenophobia has been, obviously it's been around, but it's been a concept I have heard about before, but I did not know the in-depthness to it until I really started breaking this down, which is part of why I threw a lot of information out there. It's because when I write about stuff like this, obviously I want to make sure I'm fully informed, but the more I learn about it, the more questions I tend to ask, and those questions I would look up and kind of continue the snowball till I think writing wise we've hit a good point. So but yeah, go check that out today. If you're watching this on TikTok, check the link in my bio. If you're on YouTube, check the link in the description below. Give it a serious read. There's um, all the websites I linked to at the end to show where I got all the information and all that. So that way you can go and do your own looks and research and all that too. So I'm gonna wrap this up. This has been going on a little bit longer than I usually have it. So thank you so much. And I'll be back tomorrow for our weekly psalm reading. We'll finish up Psalm 9, I believe. And until then, stay blessed.